Okay, just imagine this for a second. You are days away from what's supposed to be the happiest day of your life. The wedding is all planned, everything seems perfect. And then your fiance slides a document across the table and gives you an ultimatum. Sign this or the wedding is off. This isn't some crazy movie plot, this is a true story. And it's at the heart of an absolutely landmark legal battle.
And if that wasn't dramatic enough, picture your own lawyer, the person you're paying to protect you, looking you dead in the eye and saying, "This is the worst contract I have ever seen. Do not sign it." I mean, the warning cannot be any clearer.
And that is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Why on earth, against such strong advice, would anyone sign what their own lawyer called the absolute worst contract they'd ever laid eyes on? Well, to figure that out, we have to look at a choice that, well, it really wasn't a choice at all. So let's jump right into that moment of crisis. This is where a fairy tale romance is about to smash head-on into a cold, hard, and totally non-negotiable reality. The year is 2007, and the scene is set for this huge, lavish wedding in Australia. You can just feel the pressure, right? The dress is bought, the fancy reception is all booked, and family and friends have flown in from literally all over the globe. Everything is in motion.
And then, bam, the ultimatum lands. The groom-to-be, a super wealthy property developer named Mr. Kennedy, tells his fiancée, Miss Thorne, that it's simple. Sign this prenup right now or the whole thing is off. Instantly, all that joy, all that planning, all her hopes for the future, it all comes down to a single signature.
So you have to be asking, how did she end up in such an impossible spot? To get that, we need to rewind a bit, because this crisis didn't just pop up out of nowhere. It was actually built on a foundation of massive, massive inequality right from the very beginning. Just look at this comparison. It tells you so much of the story. On one side, you've got Miss Thorne. She's 36, from Eastern Europe, divorced, with basically no assets to her name. And on the other side, Mr. Kennedy. He's 67, an Australian property developer worth over $18 million. I mean, this isn't just a wealth gap, it's a grand canyon of differences in age, life experience, and security.
So, their relationship moved really fast. They met online, and pretty early on, Mr. Kennedy laid down the law. He said, look, my money is for my children. If we get married, you will have to sign a paper. For Miss Thorne, this was the price of admission for the life he was promising. So she did it. She gave up her job, her country, her friends, and moved to Australia, putting her entire future, everything, into his hands.
And all of this put her in a state of, well, complete powerlessness. Think about it. Her visa, her legal right to even be in the country, was tied to him. She had zero money of her own. She'd left behind her entire support system. And here's the crucial part. She was emotionally invested. This wasn't just a business transaction for her. This was her life, her love, and her one big hope for having a family.
So fast forward, the marriage eventually ends, Mr. Kennedy passes away, and Miss Thorne takes his estate to court to get that agreement thrown out. And this is where we get a fascinating legal battle. It's basically a fight between a perfectly written legal document on one side and the ugly, oppressive reality of how it was signed on the other. The two sides came to court with two completely different stories. The estate's argument was all about form. They said, look, the paperwork was perfect, she had her own lawyer, she was an adult, she made a choice. A deal is a deal, plain and simple. But Mrs. Thorne's argument was all about substance. It was about the insane power imbalance and the crazy circumstances of the signing, which they said meant it wasn't a real choice at all. The estate basically argued that just because a choice is hard doesn't make it illegal. They painted her as this rational person who weighed the pros and cons and decided, you know what, marrying a rich guy is worth signing this bad contract. They said she could have just walked away. But her lawyers came back with this incredibly powerful question. Is it really a free choice when one path leads to marriage, love, financial security, a family, and the other path leads to total public humiliation, losing your home, your partner, and probably getting kicked out of the country? They argued that's not a choice, it's a threat. So how did the court see it? Would it just uphold the signed contract because the boxes were checked, or would it look deeper into the messy human story behind the ink? The judge's ruling turned out to be a really big moment. The verdict was a slam dunk for Miss Thorne, a complete victory. The judge said both the agreement signed before the wedding and another one signed after were totally invalid. They were legally wiped out as if they had never even existed. So how did the judge get there?
It all came down to a much broader idea of what legal duress means. It's not just, someone holding a gun to your head. The court recognized that overwhelming emotional, financial, and situational pressure can be just as powerful, basically robbing a person of their free will.
And this quote from the judge just says it all. He didn't just see the money difference. He saw the entire picture of her vulnerability, her immigration status, her total financial reliance on him, her love for him, and the massive public pressure of a wedding that was just days away. He actually called it a perfect storm of pressure. All these different factors came together at once, and it was so overwhelming that it made a fair, good faith negotiation completely impossible. In the court's eyes, her signature wasn't an act of free will. It was an act of survival.
Now, this case is way more than just a dramatic story. It offers some incredibly important lessons about power, about consent, and about how the law works. So let's break down the key takeaways for all of us.
Okay, there are 5 huge lessons here. First, legal advice is an alarm bell. That lawyer's warning, don't sign, ironically became Ms. Thorne's single best piece of evidence that she was being forced. Second, duress is more than physical. The court made it crystal clear that extreme financial and emotional pressure are just as real. Third, soft power matters. Things like love, hope, and public embarrassment aren't just feelings. They have real legal weight in court. Fourth, perfect paperwork can't hide a rotten deal. A judge can and will look past the pristine formatting to find the truth. And finally, number 5, keep the receipts. Any proof you have that you are hesitant, emails, texts, a lawyer's letter, can be the key that wins your case later on. At the end of the day, this entire case leaves us with this one profound idea. A contract is supposed to be a meeting of minds, a voluntary agreement. When one person is under so much pressure that they are forced to surrender their will, it stops being a contract. It becomes an act of submission. And that is something the law, at its very best, will simply refuse to enforce.